Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so generative AI. It is literally the buzzword of our time, right? For the longest time, we've kind of treated data like this big static library. But today, we really need to look at it through a totally new lens. Think of it like digital clay. Just like an artist takes a shapeless block and molds it into something entirely new, modern technology is now sculpting raw data. It's this incredibly fascinating, and yet maybe slightly intimidating shift.
So ask yourself this: what if a machine could create original art, music, or even code in mere seconds? And I mean, not just search for it, and definitely not just copy and paste it. I'm talking about creating it completely from scratch. We've spent decades treating computers as, giant filing cabinets. You put info in, you get the exact same info out. But now we're basically asking machines to act as digital sculptors.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll meet generative AI. Then we'll peek under the hood at the engine of creation. After that, we'll see how it's transforming our world, neutrally examine the real-world risks, and finally, look ahead at the future of innovation.
Let's jump right into Section 1, Meet Generative AI, defining the new era of creation.
So what actually is it? At its core, generative AI is a branch of artificial intelligence that creates entirely original content. We're talking text, images, music, videos, and even code. And it does this by learning patterns from massive data sets. Remember that raw clay we talked about earlier? Well, the AI consumes millions of examples of human writing, art, or code, and it figures out the underlying DNA of how those things are put together. Then it sculpts something that has literally never existed before. Now, this comparison is absolutely crucial to understand the shift. Traditional AI, it was built for analysis. It analyzes existing information, like recognizing a face in a photo or predicting what movie you might want to watch next on Friday night. It basically observes what's already there. But generative AI, it crosses this massive threshold into actual creation. It doesn't just recognize a face, it creates original content, generating a hyper-realistic photo of a person who doesn't even exist. It's a total game changer.
Moving on to Section 2, the engine of creation. Let's look at the models powering the tools.
Let's take a quick look under the hood. You'll hear about these popular AI models all the time: LLMs, GANs, VAEs, and diffusion models. These are the deep learning frameworks acting as the actual engines for today's tools. LLMs, or large language models, generate text and code just by predicting the next logical sequence of words. GANs actually pit two neural networks against each other to perfect an image. And diffusion models? They create visuals by taking random static and systematically removing the noise until, boom, a masterpiece emerges. Pretty wild stuff.
All right, Section 3, Transforming Our World. Let's explore some real-world applications.
So, what does this actually mean for us on a practical level? Well, this technology is bleeding across all sector boundaries. In the creative space, things like artwork and music are being generated in seconds, but it goes way deeper than that. Look at healthcare. Generative AI is actively mapping complex proteins to accelerate drug discovery and enhance medical imaging. And over in business, it's not just writing simple marketing copy anymore. We're talking about writing and debugging code and automating entire complex workflows.
Which brings us to Section 4, the real-world risks, navigating the challenges.
We need to hit the brakes on the hype train for a second, because with this much power comes some very serious ethical friction. There are complex challenges of generative AI that we're navigating right now. We're seeing the rise of highly convincing deepfakes and misinformation. There are also massive, very real privacy concerns regarding the data used to train these models, alongside the risk of AI simply amplifying existing human biases. And then, of course, the copyright issues. I mean, the debate is raging right now. Who actually owns a piece of art when an AI studied 1 million human painters just to create it? We aren't taking sides here, but these are the undeniable, real-world hurdles the industry faces.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, the future of innovation, changing how we work.
The bottom line here is that generative AI is fundamentally changing how people create, work, and innovate across all industries. This is no longer just some fascinating lab experiment isolated out in Silicon Valley. The digital clay is literally in our hands right now. So whether you are a doctor, a marketer, an artist, or a programmer, the tools of your trade are evolving at an absolutely unprecedented pace.
I want to leave you with this thought. As generative AI continues to reshape industries and the global economy, how will it change the way you work? How are you going to mold that digital clay? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. Until next time, keep innovating.